Hey, this is Gina Grad.
Hi, this is Teresa Strasser.
Hi, everyone. This is Mike Errico.
Hey there. This is Casey Cavalier.
I'm Rocky Rose.
And you are listening to The Jay Franzi Show.
Lucky you.
Welcome to The Jay Franzi Show, a behind-the-curtain look at the entertainment industry with insights you can't pay for and stories you've never heard. Now, here's your host, Jay Franzi.
Well, hello, and welcome to the show. I am Jay Franzi, and this is your backstage pass to the music industry. This week, we get to talk with a country music recording artist. We get to talk with Robby Johnson. We'll talk to him about what it was like playing at Tootsie's, what his production process is like, and well, we'll talk to him about his go-to food when he's recording in Nashville. Now, Robby, he is not only an amazing singer, songwriter, and recording artist, but he's an amazing guy, and I can't wait to talk with him tonight. So if you would like to join in, comment, or fire off any questions, please head over to jfranzi.com. Now, let's get started. Robby, sir, how are you?
Hey, Jay, I'm doing great. What about you? How are you doing?
I am having a great day, sir, and it is much better now that I get to talk to you, or at least that's what I'm going to tell you.
All right.
Let's just go ahead and kick it off. I know you had an opportunity to perform at Tootsie's, which is an iconic location in Nashville. Can you tell me what it was like performing there?
Oh, it was pretty intense. I had some people visiting out of state, out of country, and they just had a blast. It was a lot of fun, and it's funny because we stayed there after, and my son got on stage for Sweet Caroline. I'm pretty sure you know that song very, very well. And I mean, we had a blast that night. It was great. It's always great to get up there. Last minute thing, you just get up there and you sing a couple of covers and you just get the crowd excited. And, you know, live performance, it's the best thing in the world.
Well, Tootsie's has been around for a long time. I mean, it's been around since the Hank Williams days when he used to sneak over from the Opry. How has it changed over the years?
I wasn't there when he was sneaking.
No,
so
you weren't present?
I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't present. But you can sense the roots and everything, and people knowing that and enjoying that at Tootsie's. It's the real deal, and it's fun. And I mean, there's a ton of honky tonks downtown, you know. And now the new is every major artist has a bar downtown, and all, you know, tearing down the places and making new bars. And the vitality of Nashville is amazing. And I fortunate that Tootsie is still around, and a bunch of others, Legends Corner, and all those honky tonks that were there, you know, like you were saying, when Willie Nelson would write a song on a napkin, you know, all those. It's great that you're still around.
Well, I know things have changed over the years. We used to have Fanfare. Now we have CMA Fest. I know you've had an opportunity to spend some time at CMA Fest, but have you had an opportunity to perform?
Yeah, I had an opportunity to perform. Not this summer though. This summer I did the signing booth, and that was crazy. It's always amazing to see a lineup of people that want to see you, get your autograph, get to chat, meet and greet. It's so incredible to have this opportunity. And it's funny because after my live shows, I do sign autographs. And I got to say, it's probably one of my favorite moments of the show after, when you get to meet the people and talk, and they tell you how much they, you know, connect with the music. But I did not this summer, the summer before, I did have a chance to perform, and that was on the Spotlight stage. And that was really, really, really cool.
Is that different to you than performing at a regular show?
Yeah, I mean, it's different. You know, yes, people do gather because they saw you on the schedule, and there's people that don't have a clue who I am, and they just discover it. And then it's fun. It's a lot of fun, you know, and it's always great to meet new fans, make new fans, and just spread the word out.
Well, you also mentioned the time and the experience when you're signing the autographs or meeting the fans.
Yeah.
How's that make you feel? I mean, it's gotta be a great feeling.
It's a great feeling. And, it's music business and doing this, it's a lot of sacrifices and even on the family. And I remember one time after a show, I was signing autographs and my kids were right next to me and they had the opportunity to witness that. And the guy walks up to me and he says, I got to tell you something. One day I was really down. I was really considering ending my life. And I saw you on TV talking about your crazy story, how you became an artist and how you dreamt about this and you never gave up and you just believed it. And he said, it saved my life. And I was happy that my kids were able to witness that because it's a lot of sacrifices, but it's great when you hear someone like, share this with you and others, how they relate to the music and all that. So it's really great. It's always fun. You never know what people are going to tell you. It's a lot of fun to meet the fans and just say thank you. Just thank them for everything they do. Because, we're not the stars of the show. The fans are. It's people that, share the music, stream the music. If I'm on a stage by myself, I'm not a star. If there's 80,000 people in the stadium to see me, they're the stars. They're the ones that make it happen. It's not me, it's them. And we don't decide. We just hang in there and hope that people relate with the music. And if it relates with a certain percentage of the population, great, and if it's a higher percentage, even better, you don't know. It's the music that makes it happen and the fans that listen, stream, and share the music.
Of course. Before we leave the subject, though, that ride home with your kids that night, what was that conversation like?
Well, it was like, it's funny because, they were like, whoa, we never thought we'd witness this. It's pretty powerful. Music's pretty powerful and just being like a role model in the media, they understood, what it represents to be in the public's eye and be an artist, and that was the conversation.
Well, I know family is very important to you and that you've had your daughter in one of your videos.
Yeah.
What's it like having that moment with your daughter?
Yeah, my daughter, it was funny because for that music video, we're like, okay, so we're shooting a music video in Tampa, and I was like, hey, do you want to be in the music video? And she's like, well, if I get to pick the guy,
Of course.
I'm down for it. So she went online and she scouted some guys for the music video. And it's funny because in the music video, they look like they're really, going out, it looks like they've been together for years. It's really crazy.
That's
the
good
connection
acting is what that is.
Yeah. But I was so stressed because when we started the day shooting, it's crazy because, I'm daddy. So I'm looking at her perform and I'm like, oh no, it's not working. And I call my wife, it's not working. And she's too nervous, blah, blah, blah. But actually it turned out great on screen because she's meeting this guy for the first time. So of course she's going to be kind of nervous, and a little awkward. So it worked perfectly. And later in the shoot, she got comfortable. So everything was perfect. It all worked out great. And that was a lot of fun. And it's sad because that bar was totally demolished. It's in it's not in Tampa. It's in Clearwater. It's a section in a restaurant, Jimmy's Seafood, something. I don't remember the exact name, but he has a bar section. It's like everything Packers, and it was complete. No, it was completely destroyed by the hurricane, man, and they got another one coming. That's crazy.
Right? Sad times.
Yep.
So the video "Trying to Get Over You" is the name of that song.
Yeah, it's great, and the video made its way on CMT on rotation, and that was really, really cool.
Well, that song. Let's, I guess, get into your music a little bit and talk about the song because it has steel and fiddle in the song. And
yep.
I've noticed throughout your music there is a consistency of steel and fiddle throughout your songs. Is that done on purpose?
Yep. Done up. I love steel fiddle. I mean, you don't need it to call a song, country to say that a song is country or not. I think it has more to do with what you say, the authenticity. Is it genuine? Is it, down to earth? Is it real? I think that has more to do with, what makes a song country or not. But for me, I just love fiddle. I love steel guitar. And I don't know. For me, if a song requires it, it requires it. That's it.
Well, I notice it gives an old school feel, which your music has an old school feel and a vibe to it, and including, I think it was If I Ever Was a Cowboy, kind of had a George Strait feel to it.
Yes. And that song, man, it's crazy. It's approaching the 1 million streams. It's doing really great. It's featured on Spotify's traditional country playlist, which is it's incredible to be on that playlist. Right next to Cody Johnson, George Strait, Alan Jackson. All the greats that carry that traditional country sound. John Party and all that. It's crazy. And I've been on that playlist for a very long time and just doing great. And my song is going up the list, so I'm really happy. And it's funny. I wrote this song because, every day I mentioned Cody Johnson. Cody Johnson, he's a rancher. He's a real cowboy. He's the real thing. But oftentimes in country music, when we talk about cowboys, it's, bad boys that cheat, that never there, not reliable, that always, and I wanted to talk about the good cowboys out there that the kids look up to. They're in the church pew on Sunday, and hardworking man, loving wife, great family. Like I said, kids looking up to them, and I just wanted to do a song about that. And me personally, I wish cowboy. So it's really kind of a personal song where I'm thinking, hey, if I ever was a cowboy, that's what I'd be.
Well, I mentioned it kind of has a George Strait feel to it. Was George Strait an influence of yours?
Not consciously, but of course, I've been listening to country music pretty much all my life, but other genres of music, pop, rock, and everything. Of course, we pick from all of that. Oftentimes, it's not consciously that you do it. It just happens. And the way I write my music is I sit down, I grab my guitar, and I just let it out. And every time you fight a song and you try to fabricate it and you try and, to mold it to a certain way, it doesn't work. You have to let it be what it wants to be. And so if it's going that direction, just let it go that direction. That's where it comes from, and that's what it wants to be. So many times I've tried, I wanted the song to be about this, and then I'm trying hard to make it work, and it just doesn't work. Even have a song. It's funny. I have a song that it's not that we were trying to make it something. It's just we didn't know. It's on my my album, Don't Look Back. It's a song. It's I Ain't the Guy. That's the name of the song. And so we tracked the song. I cut the vocals. We're in the mix. We're mixing the song with James Stroud back then, my producer for that album. And the song really doesn't work. It's not going anywhere, where you're playing with the faders and, it's like, I don't know. And that's something wrong with this song. And I turned to James. I'm like, hey, what if you send it to your friend and have him make just play a solo, Vince Gill. Just why don't you send to Vince, maybe he could play a solo. And he sends the song to Vince Gill, and he plays an electrifying guitar solo with his signature sound and tone. And when the song comes back, it's like, eureka, oh my God, this is what the song wants to be. So we called in Brent Mason, who redubbed some guitars because Vince only did the solo. So, and it's funny because Brent Mason was like, oh, that's Vince Gill. He knew instantly it was Vince Gill. And so he had a full stack. He just tweaked everything. He started playing, and he made the song what it meant to be, and it was great. And it's on the album, and it's one of my favorites. And there's a Vince Gill collaboration on it. But he saved the song because he just listened to the songs like, oh, that's what it wants to be. Let's just let it be, and he saved the song because it wasn't making the cut, but now it did.
All right. You talk about your process and letting the song take on its own direction.
Yeah.
However, when you sit down, do you typically sit down with lyrics in mind first or melody?
It's funny. It depends. Sometimes, well, no, I mean, mostly I will start with just fooling around with the guitar and playing a chord progression, and then kind of a melody will come out with some words, and I just build on that, and then a story starts to happen. I start to visualize a story in my mind, and that's how I build the song. Yeah, so it's never really where I have a lyric or I wrote down a hook or something, or I have a notepad with a bunch of stuff. No, it's really just me sitting down and just, like I said, letting it out. I know that, Ashley Gorley and all those top hit songwriters, they have those notebooks or in their phones. They have, every time they hear a hook or something, they just note it down. Say, I got to write about this. And then they get with two other guys and they're like, oh, what do you got? It's like, oh, I got this hook. And they just start with that and craft a song in 3 hours, which, well, I mean, it happens sometimes where you can write a song in 30 minutes. It happened to me. And sometimes it takes weeks. Yeah. And, it's just how much you fight it. And you don't, like I said, sometimes you want to fight it. I don't know why. But, you just got to let it be what it wants to be. I think sometimes it feels like the song was already written, and I just found it. And so it's not really for me. It already kind of existed. So it's kind of like almost spiritual. So it's kind of divine. So the less you fight it, it means the more it comes from, something higher than you. There's a better chance it might be better than if, a mortal like me with all my imperfections try and make a great song.
Well, you mentioned some of those great songwriters. Do you ever collab with another writer?
At the beginning of my career, I did, and I still do. My co-producer, Danny Rader. Well, co-producer. He's like the producer, and I'm kind of co-producer. I don't know how to call it. It's just that we start working on a song, and then I just finish up the song, and I will do some overdubs. I handle all the vocals, all the editing, the pre-mix, and all that. So I'm hands-on on the process. So I'm kind of a co-producer, but he's there with me. I write songs, and then I sit down with Danny. Danny Rader is an amazing session player, songwriter, producer. He's a CMA Award musical director, also CMA Country Christmas musical director. He plays on all the big records, Kenny Chesney, Jason Aldean, John Party, Thomas Rhett. I mean, all the big records he's on there. You'll find him, Dirk Bentley. He just finished touring with Kenny Chesney, the big stadium tour. He was there. He's amazing. So I sit down with him. We go over my songs. He will help me, challenge the lyrics. Sometimes he will come up with some lyrics, things we need to change, and arrangements, chord progressions, the bridge. Oh, we could go in this direction instead. So he becomes a co-writer of the song, but it mostly comes from me. But sometimes we do sit down and, after the fact. But sometimes we do sit down where I only have a chorus, and he will come up with a verse and something. It happened for my song June and July. I just had a chorus, and he came up with a really hooky melody for the verse and like the backstory for the verse, and we finished the song. So yes, I do that. At the beginning, I did some co-writes, but I was really green starting where, you get a word in and you're all happy. They're pretty quick. Those professional songwriters, they get very, if nothing's happening, they start impatient, like what's going on, because they have a publishing deal. They need to deliver a song, and in 3 hours, they're not going to stay there for 5 hours. They have another session coming up to write another song. So Yeah,
Which is
it's very
crazy.
different from which is crazy. I don't know how they do it. It's maybe I should try it again. Maybe I could pull it off. I don't know. I'm getting better and better, I guess. I think. I hope.
Well, of course, repetition makes it better, but
Yeah.
and like you said, some of them flow out of you in half an hour. The thing is,
Yeah.
you can't control when those things are happening.
No. Yeah, no,
You can't just dial it in.
no. If you want to crash, that's the best approach. I would say is like, okay, I got a half hour. I'm going to write a song.
Yeah.
It's like,
Write the
ooh,
song
like
real
that.
quick.
Like you're saying, repetition, also trusting, that you can do it and not second guessing your ideas and all that. And like I was saying, the more you fight it, the harder it is.
You mentioned before that you take on some production roles when it comes to editing vocals and so forth. So does that mean that you're recording the vocals at your own place and truly taking on a producer's role when it comes to the vocals?
No. Actually, I will go to Starstruck Studio.
Okay, Reba's place.
On the road. Yeah, was Reba's place. And because they have two studios, a big one, a small one, the pond, the gallery, and they're amazing. But it's really because they have the best mics. And also, or I will go to Blackbirds, also Berry Hills. So I just get with an engineer, and the way I work before, I would just sing, and then the engineer would just comp as we go. But it's time consuming. It's tiring. There's downtime and all that. So now the way I do it is I just sing, and he just add some tracks, and I just sing. He playlists, and I sing. And when I know, because as I sing, I kind of listen, to what I did and remember it and know what I need to get. And then I just go back home and I comp everything, place it, pocket it, and do all that. That's how I work. And then when I get the full session back, sometimes I will get overdub of drums, bass, or whatnot, and I just listen to the whole session. And it's funny because sometimes players, they will do stuff out after the song's over or before, and they do cool stuff that sometimes you can bring in the song, or something they do at the end that is cool in the intro, and so sometimes I move stuff around. If there's a bad note somewhere or something, and because it happened, like you said, 3 minutes, the song's done.
Right. Sometimes
it happens so fast, and you're in the moment, you're all excited, and you listen back, and sometimes there's just one note, and I'm a little perfectionist. Sometimes like this no bothers me.
Bring it over here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. So, what software are you using?
Pro Tools.
Okay, good.
Studio, yeah.
So you're using Pro Tools, which is what most of the studios in Nashville typically use.
Yeah.
The time that you spent with James, what type of producer was James?
He was a great producer, and he had, I'm so happy, so fortunate, so thankful, because it's James Stroud. Everybody in Nashville worked for James Stroud. I mean, he's been, Clint Black, Chris Young. He's sold more than 90 million albums were sold that he produced. I mean, it's crazy, the numbers. And it's funny because when we were working on the album, there were some new albums being released, and if the album would sell 80,000 units, people were happy. And Jim was like, we would sell that in the first hour.
Right.
And now it's like lifetime 80,000, and everybody's excited. Album sales, and it was crazy. But he was a great producer, and also he was able to get me some co-writes, some great songwriters. JT Harding, I wrote "Don't Look Back," title track of the album. I wrote with JT Harding. That was really cool. Also, he brought in some outside songs from triple play writers, Ashley Gorley, Dallas Davidson, Ray Akins, and all those credible songwriters. So that was really cool. And also he picked the right players, and he just lets them do their thing. He trusts the process. He just gives a direction, and he knows the guys are going to deliver. They're professionals. They're the best musicians out there.
So does he take that role of picking the studio and the musicians and organizing everything as well?
Well, he has, he had a bunch of assistants. He had Doug that was handling, and Tammy, he had a bunch of people, worked for him. But yeah, I mean, guy's a great producer. There's one song, it's funny because we recorded on the row. It was, now it's, I don't know how, I think it's with Belmont now. I'm not too sure, but what was the name of that? Loud Recordings. I'm not too sure the name of this. Yeah, it was right there. Yeah. So we tracked vocals over there, and one of my songs, the 1, 2, 3, 4, needed a gang vocal, So one day we just came out of the studio, and there was Belmont, there's students outside, It's like, hey kids, you want to be on a record? And he just brought in a bunch of students, Belmont students, in music, and they just sang and everything. He was great. He was so funny. We had a lot of fun in the studio.
Well, you say that. You couldn't pick a better group of students. I mean, Belmont has some of the best music students in the world. So, yeah. I mean, that's kind of funny. So let's talk about the difference now between the way James approaches a record compared to the way that Danny approaches it.
Well, the difference is that Danny is a genius. He can play
James.
Everything. He can. No, I mean, not. No, James is also. He's one of the best.
Different type of genius.
He was. You can ask session players, and they will tell you that James Stroud was the best drummer, session player, best drummer that Nashville ever had.
Which it kills me, by the way, that there's some amazing drummers that are also amazing producers. You don't typically think of a drummer as being a producer.
He proved he was great at both.
Well, yeah, him and Paul Lime most recently.
Yeah, Paul Lime. First time I was in the studio, Paul Lime was there. I was like, oh my God, it's funny. This song, kind of sounds like an Elvis track. People started laughing. Well, you have the guy, that was going to go on tour before he passed. And now he's in charge of the official Elvis tour. Yeah, so that's pretty crazy. But, going back to James Stroud, one time, we were talking about the record, the album. It was like, what kind of sound, do you want for the drums? And I was like, oh, I really like old time rock and roll. And his assistant, Tammy, started laughing. I was like, what's going on? Well, she's like, he's the one that played on that record. Like, what? No. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Wow, that's so crazy. Yeah, he played on the demo, and they kept the demo for
Was that good?
Yeah, because there was something happening on the demo that he couldn't reproduce. When they tried in the session and everything, so they kept the demo. A lot of stuff from the demo, even some scratch vocals from the demo as well. Yeah, but with Danny, he can play everything. He comes from a musical family. He's played music all his life. He has a catalog in his mind of all the music, all the styles, all the genres. It's crazy, everything he knows. So he can play pretty much everything. So in his studio, he will, lay down like a basic drum loop or track, and then he will just add on, acoustic guitars, electric guitar, bass, B3, keys, everything. The only thing he will not play is fiddle. Yeah, all the rest he can play. And then I will sometimes get some overdubs, for the drums with Wes Little, who played on my Don't Look Back album when James produced. I really loved him. So oftentimes he's the one that I go to for playing drums, overdubs. And yeah, sometimes, it happened sometime I needed a guitar, when I need a guitar overdub, and Danny's is too slam, then I will go to another guy. I sometimes work with Justin Ostrander, who's an amazing guitar player, crazy guitar player as well. Yeah, that's how it works.
Some of these guys, another lesson or two, and they might be pretty good.
Yeah, they're getting there.
Yeah, they're almost.
It's great.
Yeah,
almost there. Oh, yeah, they're so good.
Well, let's talk about Up All Night for a second.
Yep.
Which producer did you collaborate with on that song?
That was Danny. Yeah, that was Danny, but Justin plays on that song. Justin Ostrander. And it's funny because the song was kind of different, and went back in with Danny to change the verses, change the chord progression of the verses. And then when I had the final session, I was like, there's a little something missing. So I reached out to Justin, and he did some overdubs, guitar overdubs. And the two guitars are it's two different sounds, and they're kind of complement. It's weird, but it works perfectly.
Right. They blend when they really shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. And it came out great. And my mixer, I kind of did a pre-mix, but I left more in. Jack Clark, who mixes my songs now, mixed this one, and he picked the right parts and all the good parts, and that's what he did. And he called me. He's like, "There's a lot of parts that are pretty much the same," because Justin, when I sent him the session, I didn't put what Danny had played. So, and it's crazy how both of them played kind of the same thing without even knowing, because it's what it needed. It's so crazy how these guys can do it. Sometimes you have a feeling it's coming from somewhere else, but he picked the right parts and mixed it together, and it sounds great.
Well, I wanted to ask you about this song particularly. I mean, besides the fact that it has a B3 in it and sounds awesome. You mentioned when you work with Danny that you take the tracks home and you comp the vocals yourself. Well, that song has a different feel to it than the other songs. The vocal has a little bit more gravel to it and has a little bit more aggression. So how many tracks did you put down to get to what you wanted on that song?
I would say around, 8 to 10 tracks. I will start singing. I will go through the entire song, sing it like 3 times just to warm up and place things and feel it. And then I will start with the verses, verse 1, and then I will do a couple of verses. Then I'll go to verse 2, couple of verses, then come back to chorus, or, all the lower sections where you're not pushing your voice as much, because since you can be singing for an hour and a half, if you start screaming from the get-go, I mean,
you're done.
You're done. So you got to be careful. So you just do it progressively, and then you make sure that everything ties together and that you got everything you need. And then when you go back home, you just play with that.
That's another tune that has that old school feel to it. I really like it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, almost. And that's a song that came up in the middle of the night. It's titled Up All Night, which was funny. And I woke up and I was like, I got my phone and I recorded, what I was just spitting out. And the next day I was like, oh, what is this? Oh, this is really cool. And it's Up All Night. Yeah.
Well, before we leave the studio conversation here, any stories that stand out to you?
Well, you kind of mentioned it earlier, how fast the process is in Nashville. People don't realize that, they hear those hit song, classic gold songs on the radio. And oftentimes how it happened in the studio is like 6 guys, they're sitting down and then they have, their pads. The band leader will have charted the song before, they give them the chart. It's all numbered. In Nashville, they work with numbers, and it's just a bunch of numbers. And then the band leader and with the producer will go, okay, so guys, listen, we're going for this feel, think about this song, think about this, blah, blah, blah. And they talk for a minute, and then they just get up. They go in the studio, they tune their instruments, and then you hear the drummer give the count, and they start the song, and everybody plays their part. Everybody's in the right spot. They played a song one time, and oftentimes that's what you hear on the radio. They never played it before, but they're so good, that's what ends up on the radio.
Now, you've mentioned some serious musicians and studio musicians, whether, Brent Mason or even Vince Gill coming in and playing. Who surprised you the most?
Well, Brent Mason is pretty impressive with that guitar that he that follows him around, because it's a really epic guitar. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And all of them, it's just they're down to earth, but they're legends, but they're really down to earth, and they're funny, they're having fun. It's really incredible, how humble they are and down to earth, and they talk about everyday problems. They're not divas and all. So it's really cool to be around them, and it's inspiring.
Well, one more thing before we leave the subject, because it's probably the most important piece. Where did you eat when you were working downtown?
All right, so working downtown, of course, Chewy's, they have what they call the creamy jalapeno, but we called it the crack sauce because it is so addictive. The first time you taste it, you're like, yeah, I mean, it's okay. And then you get some again, and you can't stop. Then you pour it on your tacos and your fajitas. You want it everywhere. It is so good. I'm telling you guys, Chewy's, it's really good. Now there's a bunch everywhere, so it's great. Hattie B's.
Hattie B's. Let's talk Hattie B's for a second.
Yeah.
I took my daughter, one of her friends and my daughter, we went down to Nashville to see the Arctic Monkeys play at the Ascend Amphitheater. One of my daughter's favorite bands. Was a great time. But before we went there, we went to Hattie B's. My daughter loves hot sauce like I do. I mean, we're hot sauce people. Her friend, on the other hand, not so much. And I felt so bad for that girl. The first bite she took of that chicken sent her through the roof. She was over at that trash can, just waving her hand over her mouth and stuff. It was pretty bad.
Yeah. So you got to be aware of people. If you go to Nashville and you order Nashville chicken, it's going to be spicy.
All right. Back to the music. So what other venues have you played at that have left a lasting impression on you?
I was headliner Country Jam USA in Eau Claire, and that was pretty amazing. That was really, really cool. A lot of people there. It's so funny because I went there, my truck, my camping trailer, parked right next to those big buses of all those huge acts, and I had just my little truck and my little camping trailer. It's so funny. Oh man, but it was a lot of fun. And also did one time I opened for Keith Urban. It was the first time they had a country act on the big scene, because it's a festival that they have, they had the Rolling Stones, Paul McCartney, all the big acts in the world have played that stage. And it was their first country night ever, and it was Keith Urban, the main event. There was 35,000 people there. And when I went up the ramp, they were chanting my name. So that was pretty intense. I don't know if it's my family in front that started them chanting my name, but it was a great moment. It was a lot of fun. That was pretty cool.
You mentioned working with Keith. What was it like working with Keith?
Oh my God, he's such a sweet guy, really. I mean, before the show, he was out of his green room. He had his iPad. He was, I guess, FaceTiming with Nicole and the kids, and he was showing the place around. He's so sweet. When he did his Ripcord World Tour, he invited me. There's 2 shows that I went and sang a song with him, You Gonna Fly, 2 different nights, and that was amazing. That was, the guy's another, genius, a musical genius, musical savant.
Well, you talked about staying late and signing autographs.
Yep.
2 things from that. One, if somebody does go to your show and wants to get an autograph or have that opportunity, how do they go about doing that? Where do they find it?
It all depends on the venue. If there's sometimes, there's like a table with some merch or something like that. And at the end of the show, thank you everybody. And I'd say, hey, I'm going to be over there signing autographs for you guys, and meet me there. And then I just go backstage, change my drenched t-shirt, and throw in a couple gums and go signing autographs for an hour and a half. That's how I go about it. Sometimes it's right next to the stage. It all depends on the venue. And if there's another act after me, if there's another act after me, then it gets tricky because you don't want to take away from the other act. So that's when it's not as long. But when I'm the headliner, no problem. I can stay. I've stayed 2 hours after a show signing autographs.
Do you ever have any crazy requests, anything that have turned into tattoos or
Yeah, I have one that turned into a tattoo, and also signing on body parts over the belt, nothing under the belt. All right, I will not do that. But yeah, I've signed some pretty nice body parts. It's funny because sometimes people will grab any piece of paper,
Right.
Restaurant receipt, like, hey, sign, and you just sign it, and they're going to keep it, and it's pretty weird.
Anybody bring something to you, like specifically like a guitar or anything like that?
Yeah, guitar. Mostly, I would say mostly is the hats, the cowboy hats. But I did have a guitar that happened, and many different things.
All right, sir. Well, we do this thing here we call Unsung Heroes, where we take a moment to shine the light on somebody who's worked behind the scenes or somebody who may have supported you along the way. Do you have anybody you'd like to shine a little light on?
Well, actually, yeah. Kylie, she's from Australia. She was my first, I would say, fan. Right at the beginning when I started posting my music on Facebook, when Facebook started becoming a big thing, she's actually the first fan that sent me a gift. That was really cool. She sent me a notebook, for writing songs, taking notes and all that.
That you don't use.
Yeah, I didn't use it as a hook book, but I did use it. Also an Aussie hat. And that was really cool. So Kylie, she was there at the very, very beginning. The first song I put out there, which was I'll Be There Rocking and Rolling, the first song I recorded in a studio. That started this whole craziness.
Do you remember what studio it was?
Yeah, it was a studio in Montreal. It was great session players that played on all the big records over there. It was a gift. It was a Christmas gift. Because I was a sales rep on the road, selling industrial products, never even thinking to be on the radio, playing on the radio, be an artist, a singer. I really wasn't there. Yes, I was, writing songs and singing in the car, singing in the shower and all that. But I never considered back then, I didn't consider myself being an artist or a singer. So my girlfriend was like, you got to hear yourself. So she passed the hat and they gave me this present for Christmas. And there's a video where everybody's excited. They give me the letter. I open it, and I really don't know what it is. I read the paper, and it tells me, I'm going to be in studio to track a song. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is a great gift. I hated it. Yeah, I just needed that push, and that's the story of my life.
A big thanks to Robby for taking the time to share his stories with us, and thank you for taking the time to hang with me here. I really do appreciate it. If you know anyone that would enjoy this episode, please be sure to share it. You can do that and find the links to everything mentioned over at jfranzi.com/episode 95. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to The Jay Franzi Show. Make sure you visit us at jfranzi.com. Follow, connect, and say hello. This episode has been brought to you by VR Knives, your source for 100% custom knives made by a true rock star. So, if you're in the market for a new piece of art, reach out to VR Knives. 407-421-5528. 407-421-5528.